We will first prepare the board for sanding. After that, we will grind with coarse grain, then with a finer grain, and then show how it will be necessary to paint her board with Leinos. First, we will cut off the knots that will interfere with our grinding. We roughly prepared our workpiece for grinding. Now we will do another small operation before grinding to remove the maximum, but the largest protruding parts, level them, smooth them out. We are going to work on such an interesting disc now. It removes the wood well, however, leaves bullies, which we will polish later, but it works very effectively. First, we will work with the 80 grain skin. We glue the skin correctly. The age must match the car. Proper ventilation so that the machine does not overheat and dust is removed. For this preparation, we first use 80 skins. It is quite rough, but the tree is eaten quickly. You could have used a rougher skin, there would have been a lot of bullies. Therefore, we will work a little more than 80 and then move on to the hundreds. Please note that I do not remove the wormholes to the end. After we cover them with oil, they will look very interesting. This machine is easy to operate with both 2 hands and 1. If we don't hold the car in the air, but work on a plane, then in principle we can work like this with 1 hand. After we went through 80 grains, we got a fairly flat surface without any notches. But if we were to cover it with oil now, we would see the defects that remained from the 80th skin. And that's why we're going to go through 100 grain skins now. It will remove those scratches that remain, and the surface will be ready for painting. Before painting, it is important to remove the stupas that remain. If we don't remove them, the dust will contact the oil and the surface will be quite rough. The first thing we need to do is mix the oil. If it is a small container, then shake it well enough. If it is 10 liters, then of course you need to open it and mix it with some kind of piece of wood. If the oil is very stagnant, let's say you bought it, you can use an electric drill with a mixer. We open the cognac color and the oil is quite dark. This color will emphasize the defects of the defective piece of wood. Now we will see how well we have polished. If you are using a brush, take an elastic brush. See, it resists bending. Here, if it is very soft, you will have to work with your hand more. That is, you will have to rub the oil in, and the brush will not give the necessary effort. This brush is soft enough and elastic enough to work with oil. Oh, the first layer. What a thrill! The pattern of the tree immediately shows these wormholes, of course. They are more difficult to paint. They have to be hammered with the end of the brush. But even on the second layer, we can finish painting them when we polish the tree. We open its pores and therefore the oil enters the tree much deeper than unpolished. Unpolished or sanded, say a month ago. Gradually it closes these bark. Our task is to paint so that there is maximum protection. Well, basically, let's paint the end face. Most likely, the end will be darker. We move on to the end. Now we are painting the end face. You should notice how much darker the end is than the plane. This is due to the fact that the end absorbs about 10 times more liquid than the plane. Naturally, more oil goes there, and more pigment remains on the surface. If your task is to make the ends darker in the same color, then you can simply paint with one composition. And if you want to make the ends the same as the plane, then you either need to use a lighter composition, you can use the same tinting, but in a smaller percentage, or first cover this end with transparent oil and then paint it in color. We have pre-drilled our blank, and now I would like to show you this incorrectly. When some part of the tree is painted, some is not painted, because on conventional formulations, especially in aqueous formulations that dry quickly, this border will stand out very much. It will not be visible on the oil so much, and we will see how much difference there will be or not. Now I'll show you how we usually have to remove the dust before painting. In our case, we just sweep everything away, start painting, continue painting where we have already painted. We try to apply a very thin layer at the junction so that it is not so noticeable where the overlay is going on. Here, for example, we paint with almost a second layer, but in the case of oil, we can apply a very thin layer in this half-painted part, and then there will be no transition. It won't be visible. Take a look for yourself. Now you can see where it was painted last time and where the transition to only painted wood is. A little darker, but there is no sharp border. By the way, this is one of the techniques, the right techniques, that when you paint, you don't make a smooth border. You're trying to make it kind of undulating. And then, when I was drilling, I even drilled unevenly, I didn't make a straight line. You look, here it is, you see, here it is. And with the second application, it will be even more smoothed out. Well, we continue coloring. This is our first layer. Leinos oil cognac color. Look here. Here you can see a gray spot on a piece of wood. This color, it levels out very well. We don't see such a big difference. If we painted white, gray, transparent, then we would very much see this blue coming through the oil. We coated our workpiece with the first layer of oil. And look, this part, this is so, yes, we covered, but this one was not covered yet. Then they sanded and covered it. And now, if you look closely, you can see, of course, that there is a transition here. But look, if here, then, in principle, there are also the same color transitions here. Therefore, it does not seem so strongly that we have made the wrong technological coloring. But we got a pretty good result in principle. Now we will cover with a second layer, and most likely this transition will not be visible as it will be smoothed out in principle. These dark places were blue in the tree. Now it just looks like it's more saturated with the oil of the tree. Let's run through the Scotch-Brite first. We've removed the dust, and we're starting to apply a second layer of oil. The second layer is applied more easily. The surface is smooth. The brush works easily. We apply a fairly thin layer lower than the pile. Put a brush here and it will be stored well, because there is no oxygen access and the oil does not dry out. But if you have worked hard and will not paint for a long time, and the brush is the price for you, then wash it with water spirit and everything can be stored in a safe state. Well, the painting is over. The artist saw that you can add a mask to the picture a little more.